Lord, speak to us, give us wisdom tonight as we think about the Sudan and Uganda. We pray for your help, Lord, your guidance. In Jesus' name, amen. So the first thing is, it's so far to get there. It's 15 hours to Doha, which is in Qatar. That's 15 hours. Then it's 5 hours to Kampala. So it's 20 hours just to get there. And then you have a 12-hour layover somewhere, and then you drive about 5 hours, what we would call through the jungle, though it's not that like a jungle, but it is. Then we drove to a little spot in the middle of nowhere where Missionary Aviation Fellowship has a plane. Then they flew us to South Sudan. And I mean, this plane, I mean, look, we're talking about a plane, you crawl in the back, and it holds like 8 people. And it was an American pilot, it was an American guy. And FRM, which is what Wes's ministry is, they bought the plane, and they let Missionary Aviation Fellowship use it whenever they need it, but then when they need it, they fly them. So they're flying missionaries all over Africa, all the time. So I don't know how long that flight was. By that time, I don't even know where I was. So you fly about we flew right over the Nile River, and then you get to South Sudan. And getting into South Sudan, listen, I'm telling you, Uganda is way more of a modern country. Sudan, you get to the border checkpoint, and it's like 50 years old, broken down lawn chairs. You can't believe that this is where they're going to screen you. It's unbelievable. But then they look at your passports. You had to have like a yellow fever shot. You had to have typhus. You have to have all that in your, and I mean, they kind of look at it, but it's, I don't know, maybe it's like the Tijuana border in the 40s. It's that bad. I don't even know how to explain it. But they check you through, then it's not far, then in about 20 minutes you're at the castle, and all of a sudden you've got this, you'll see a picture of it, this castle that they built, and they also built towers in the city that the police use. Like they did it as a service to the people there, like, here, we'll build these towers for you, and you can use them too. So you're looking at this castle like, this is unbelievable. But you have to realize they pay people to work there, they build their own bricks, and they make $4 or $5 a day, and then if you feed them, they're really happy because they normally get 3 a day. So FRM pays them way more than they get anywhere else, and they did a fantastic job on this castle. It's hard to eat. You'll see pictures of it. So we're in there, so that's the first half. There's 2 teams, and there's 2 destinations. One is in Uganda, a pastors' conference for about 300 pastors. And so we're teaching them the second half, but the first half we're with the chaplains. When I say chaplains, these are military chaplains that are attached to the South Sudanese army. Okay, you might be wondering, like, well, where's the war? The war is still going on right there because there are terrorist groups constantly attacking people. So they're at war right now, even though you may not see it. It just depends. If you watch on the news, you'll see it's just a troubled part of the world. And so these chaplains, there's 300 of them now, they are assigned to a division in the South Sudanese army. So they come back for training for 2 weeks, then they're back out. So they're out wherever they are with a regular army unit. But they also fight. So if they have to fight, they fight. And one guy, they were asking how many combat situations have you been in? And this one guy says 32. I mean, a lot have been wounded. Most of them have scars from being shot. So they're out basically preaching to the soldiers and anybody else. And the Sudanese army accepts them, in a sense, they're employees, if you want to call them that, of FRM. They're missionaries for Wes Bentley. You saw Wes this morning. But the Sudanese army accepts them as chaplains. So they are assigned to a group, and then they go out And unbelievable. So that was the first assignment is teaching. I think I had 4 sessions with them. And you're just thinking, here's these guys. I mean, so far 71 have been killed. So you're thinking, what am I going to say to them? I mean, these people have, they put their life on the line every day. But the one thing that'll get me not to be so serious is the music. First of all, if you're familiar at all with like groups in the 50s, like the Coasters and the Drifters, and if you've seen them, how they dance together in step, these guys are just like that, only they're Christian songs. And they'll come up and go, Pastor Jones or Chaplain Smith has a song he wants to do. And we're in the front row. We're just sitting there. And you're thinking, what's this going to be like? And these guys come up there, and the first guy, he'll grab a mic and he starts singing, and then like 5 come up, and when I say this, they're syncopated. Like if he goes like this, they all go like that. They go like this. It's unbelievable. You think you watch the Coasters. I mean, they're that good, but they're praising God.
Yes.
So we'd be sitting there, and they'd start like dancing, and they'll go around and they stick together. I mean, they all know each other, so they're like going like this, kind of like a train, like if you were in high school. So they grab us, and here we are, we're trying to go with these. I mean, we cannot have the rhythm they do. I mean, they're fantastic. I mean, I'm just crying. I'm sitting there crying. It's so good. So that's every service. And they have regular, like a worship team, they have people that get up and play and stuff, and they're really good. But then they'll say, Pastor so-and-so is going to come up, and then he comes up, and next thing you know, he's got his own group, and it's unbelievable. I mean, you cannot. Now that's the chaplains. I haven't got to the pastors yet. So I was focused on this for months. And, I was trying to think of, we were given assignments like 1st and 2nd Timothy and Titus to preach out of, and then we had 2 sessions we could pick whatever we want. So on the one I had that was free, and it was so funny the way it worked out. Everybody got malaria. There's only about 4 of us that didn't get malaria. So a couple times I'd be in there with all these chaplains, and in one, I was the only one in there. All the other pastors were sick or doing baptisms or whatever. They're just gone. I'm in there. And the Lord spoke to me about doing Philippians 3. The heart of it being forget the past and press on. Paul says, one thing I do is I forget the things behind and I press on. So I felt really strongly on that. So I did that message. And there's an interpreter. The interpreters are the chaplains. I mean, you got a guy up here that's been shot 5 times, and he's interpreting. And if they don't get you, they'll just stop, because you use a word that there's no, and then you have to go, okay, I mean this, and then they'll do it. For the most part, they're really good. So I just preached on, with them. I said, forget the past, and I just like an hour. You get an hour. So 2 days later, a guy comes up to me and he says, listen, and by the way, the British occupied Africa for so long that these people, when they speak English, it has a British accent. All of them. They just do. So this guy comes up to me and he goes, I struggled with the past. For years. He goes, but now I don't. So that was the first where I felt like I really had connected with them. And so it was like that. I mean, they go like, I don't know, 4 sessions in the morning, 4 end up tonight. I mean, they don't think about like we are. Like they could keep going. They'd be going right now if they could. So we did the 3 sessions with the chaplains, and it was good. Now, when we're with the chaplains, the other team is over in Uganda doing a chaplains conference. I mean, pastors. These are multicultural African pastors from all over, mostly from Uganda, some from Sudan, but some from Nigeria. I mean, they could be from anywhere. And they come because FRM invites them to come, and they just come. So it's not like a Calvary Chapel thing. I mean, it sort of is, but a lot of them, they, who knows what their background is. So, all right, so we finished that one, and then now we're going to drive 6 hours back through the border, back through into Uganda, and we get to, all of a sudden we're driving, and we get to this, it looks like another castle. But inside this one, there's a school for kids that has 500 students. They wear uniforms. You want to talk about dancing? Okay. So we're sitting there, and here comes these kids. It's a lot like what Diana used to do, but multiply it by 100. So, like they'd have the kids come out, and they're singing. Then one of them steps forward and does a scripture. Like a long one, like Psalm 103 or what, like that, and then they'll pull back, and then another one steps forward, does another, 2 Corinthians 5. It's unbelievable. And then they start dancing. And I'm going, I mean, they're good. They have their uniforms on. And the school is called Christ's Crucible Christian School. So they're in uniforms, they're in this castle, so they're secure. I mean, some live there. You see the pictures, it's as big as our high school. Some live there, some come in from other areas. The ones from Sudan live there because it's too far to go back home. They're happy, they're fed, they have a medical clinic right there. So that is just incredible, this school. They own a passion fruit farm, and they're producing passion fruit that's being sold everywhere. They have a goat farm. They have corn. I mean, it's 500 acres. So they have that. That's in Uganda. So, okay, so we have these pastors. Here we go again with the music. I mean, they have a great worship team. I mean, these people are like professional worship leaders, but they were doing the conference, so I'm assuming they're probably from maybe Calvary. There's a church right there that they have an auditorium that probably seats 300. So but here we go again. Pastor Jones is here, and he wants to come up. So here he comes. And you got everything from T-shirts to guys in 3-piece suits. And this one guy with the suit on, he can dance. That's all I'm going to tell you is he can dance. He gets up there, and he's doing Christian songs, but he's dancing, and everybody's just going wild. And then they come up, and then now pretty soon you've got the whole stage is filled up with people dancing. But they're syncopated. I mean, they're in. It's almost like you're watching the Coasters. I don't know how to even explain it. So, in that case, I had 2. I mean, I was just praying for God to use me however he could. And, I'm there with other pastors from New York, all over. They're from all over. I'm the oldest. Other than Don McClure, I was the oldest. Okay, so the one time I said, you guys have issues if you have issues of your thought life, and I go, one thing you got to forget the past. Then I talked about if you have attitudes in 1 and 2 Timothy, and if you have hatred, bitterness, anger. And I really felt like I had to say, you guys, you're pastors, but some of you have issues. And I said, I'm going to give you an opportunity to come up to the front. And if you can't pray before your Christian brothers, then you really need help. And I said, so we're here to pray for you. So this is like at the end of an hour of me preaching. So think of there's 8 Calvary Chapel pastors sitting over here. So I say if you need prayer, we're here to pray for you. At least 75 come forward, maybe 100. So now all 8 of them are full on, like 3 guys each and we're praying for like 15 minutes. I mean, we can't even get it all done. So Wes turns to me and thanked me. And I go, I was just doing what I felt God telling me to do. And I said, I don't know what these guys are like, but I know they don't have training. They have some training, but they don't have Bibles or computers or any of that. I mean, they have Bibles, but we're trying to do a school now. Wes is starting to issue with a school for them where they can go for a year at a time and get some training. You have to understand, they don't, like one guy is from a tribe. Here's another problem. The chaplains kept saying, they have one song, and at the end of the song, it's, what tribe are you? And it's Lion of Judah. You're the tribe of the Lion of Judah. Because they're all in tribes, and they're very tribal in the way they think. Well, one tribe, you can have 5 wives. So a guy becomes a pastor, and guess what? He's a pastor, but he's got 5 wives. Other ones get mad at their wife for any reason and get a divorce. So I preach on marriage, and it was funny because Don McClure at one point says, who's doing the one on marriage? And I go, I am. And he goes, I'll give you $100 to let me do it. And I said, you can do it. I go, you can do it. But he didn't want to do it. So when I did that, I'm like, the interpreters all came up to me and said, Jerry, you don't understand. Some of these guys think they can have 5 wives. Some of them get divorced for any reason. And they might have 2 or 3 wives in the church, in the same church. So I got up in my last session, which was not about marriage, and I said, look, you can't get divorced except for adultery or desertion. I go, you can't just get divorced if you don't like them. And they were all telling me, we need counseling. And I said, okay. I know you do. And I told Wes, we need to have a thing where we come there for like a week and just make available slots for the pastors, because they need help. They need to talk to somebody. So that part was, I mean, it was epic. So here we are, ministering these 300, and then I had the last session. Just the way they scheduled it, I had the closing session of the whole conference. So I'm like, God, I'm just asking God to do a work, and I didn't want to have him come forward again because I had just done that. So I go, I'm going to do it a little bit different this time. So I'm doing a regular message, 2 Timothy, and I said, if you need prayer, I go, you guys need prayer, and I go, you should be praying for each other. You've got to realize, we're talking hostile country environment. Sudan is way worse. Sudan is a Muslim country. Uganda is not Muslim. There are Muslims there, but it's a Christian country, if you know what I mean. They don't follow Islam. You see a mosque in Sudan, they're everywhere. So these guys, and they may live on what we would call $100 a month would be a good salary. So they have nothing. And the most popular motorcycle in the world is sold there. It's called the Honda Boxer. It's 100 cc's, and there are thousands of them. They ride them, they carry freight on them, they carry up to 4 people. I've seen many with 4 people on it. It's so cramped that the guy's on the gas tank. And then I've seen where they load it. I've seen them carry dressers on there. But it's a part of their life. I looked it up, and it's the most popular motorcycle in the world. I mean, there's millions. So they've got that. Like a blessing would be if they could get a motorcycle. So Wes picked out 5 guys just individually, and he gave away 5 motorcycles, and they went wild. I mean, because that changes their ministry, it changes everything, and so they have these little Hondas. And anyway, so you're looking out at them, realizing these people are so much more committed than we are. And yet God's using us to come talk to them. So you have to look at it like that. It's not about, that's just like going to Ukraine. They want us to go to Ukraine there. Are you kidding? I mean, the Ukrainian chaplains, talk about a combat zone. And here's the thing. You may think, well, the Ukraine is corrupt too, but you have to understand, we're trying to help the chaplains. I mean, we're not there to take sides on which side is, you know what I mean? We'll never really understand all that. It's too deep politically that most of us have access to, if you know what I'm saying. So I don't know, that's supposed to come up, but that's a little more secretive because the details of it. So I'm not sure how that's going to even work out, but I'll go back to Africa for sure. But anyway, so my second one, I preached more than that, but there was 3 that I feel were just epic. So my last of the night, and here we go again, all the guys are off somewhere else. There's one pastor there who he happened to be black. He's the only black guy that went on the trip. And it changed his life. He got up there and he said, "It's so good to be back home." So the last session, it's just him and me. And I'm preaching it. And now this time, the church is packed because all their wives came in. So the wives are in the back, and all the pastors are in the front. I mean, packed at least 300, maybe more. So I said, listen, we're going to have a time of prayer. And I said, if you guys, you need prayer for each other. And I said, I want you to stand up, and I want you to find somebody next to you or near you, and I want you to start praying for each other. I'm telling you, the place was shaking. Yes. And I looked over at Scott, and I knew he's going to be right in the middle. So he's over, guys are all around him, and they're praying for each other. I had to stop it. It was going so long. I mean, I had to stop it to pray. But they're just praying. When I say the building was shaking, I'm serious. It was like the place was just on fire. So that was that's how we closed out the conference. And they were so excited after that when they were all walking me back to where our residences were. You know, when can you come back? And when can you come back? I said, you know, I don't know. I will come back, but I said, I'm not sure when it's going to be. But God was good. I mean, all I can say was that the people that went all had a message for the church in those areas. Now, the chaplains are another issue because they are pastors, but they're attached to a military unit. So they're out there, they're different. I mean, obviously, because, you know, what are the things that we see on TV and we're concerned about is like crocodiles, snakes, I mean, things like that, where the chaplains are like, get real. The snakes, they're easy to kill. Now, the pastors were a little different. The pastors, like, if you see one of those, just run. Well, the chaplains go, we'll just kill them. What are you talking about? So one guy who's leading singing, he's up there doing singing. He got captured by a terrorist army, and they tortured him, tried to kill him. They sliced his stomach open, and all his guts came out. Okay? So they left him for dead. I mean, without medical help. So he pulls his guts back in, gets on the radio, and calls his guys and says, look, I got loose. You got to come and get me. They go, no, we're not coming because it's a trick. We know it's not really you. He had to walk 20 miles to get to his men with his stomach like that. He survived. Not only that, he killed the 3 guys that were torturing him with his stomach like that. And you see him up there talking about a price paid for ministry. He interpreted for me a couple times. It's hard to even look at him. And he's not the only one. 71 were killed. They have like a little hall of remembrance, about half the size, and it's got pictures and the guys that were killed and their story. So my feeling was, I can tell them about chaplaincy here, but look, their idea is completely different. One guy told me, he goes, I'm 4 hours from here up in the mountains, and he's in the place where they still have the upland gorillas. He goes, we got gorillas, we got rhinos. Now that's where he is. So they're almost, I would almost say they're fearless of anything. But like I said, they're in multiple combat fighting. And they're there as chaplains, but they finally figured, Wes was smart. he began to say, we're going to arm the chaplains, because otherwise they're in combat with the guys they're representing, but they're just getting picked off. So they started to arm the chaplains. The other thing is they're trained. You heard Wes this morning. They're trained better than the Sudanese army. So they're the best trained. And they can march. But no wonder they can march. They can dance. I mean, I was just sitting in the front like, this is unbelievable. I mean, they worship. They're not like just singing like rocks. No, they worship. These songs are worship, and guess what? They're doing the majority of the lyrics in English so we can hear. The kids at the school in English. So it's unbelievable. I mean, I was just touched. I had got an email from one of them. A guy's name is Moses. He's a farmer. He already texted me. It's a life-changing experience. Is all I can say. Is because you're seeing a third world country for sure. One of the worst in the world is Sudan. And then there's one more part. Okay, so we go back to Kampala, and there's a Calvary Chapel Kampala. It's probably a small church, but they wanted to do an outreach while all the pastors were there. So they picked. This is their words, an area that's a ghetto. Okay, so we go down to this ghetto section. I mean, they're living in tin roof, brick. I mean, it's unbelievable. Most of you just go wild to go there. So we go there, and there's like 25 women and their kids sitting there that the church had contacted. Either they'd visited or whatever to come and share. So one of the guys preached a little message to them. And they try to reach them, like they gave them these little gift bags where they'd have like a pound of sugar or some pasta. I mean, these are things they can't get. Well, it's just a way to bless them. So we wanted to make sure that everybody got something. So then at the end they go, if any of you want prayer, then come up. The pastors are up here. So I'm right on the end, and so here they come. And so these are women. They're saying, I need a husband. And by the way, English is their language, but it doesn't mean it's going to be like ours. But I need this, I need that. They're just saying they're asking for prayer for whatever. And then we start getting these young girls that are like 14, 15. And they go, and I want prayer for my baby. They're pregnant. And I'm trying to pray, and I just start crying. I'm trying to pray for these unborn kids. And this one lady knew that I couldn't finish. And I just said, God, I just pray for this child. And then they've got babies. I mean, there's like an over explosion of population. Then the kids come up. And these are kids like 3, 4 years old, coming up like this, pray for me. So me and some of the other guys were saying, we got to go back and do an outreach down there, except just one. And we had this lady that's from the Calvary. She's probably in her 20s, and she's like an Energizer Bunny, and she's speaking their language and doing singing, and you have her. All you got to do is be there, because she gets them all coming, and then all we do is pray for them and help give out these gifts and give them Bibles. And in other words, the harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few. I mean, you're talking about a city of 1 million, and these ghetto sections. Maybe some people wouldn't want to go in there, but it's a great opportunity. So we're already talking about contacting the church ahead of time and say, look, we want to go back down there at least a few times. So that was the final ministry. That's just was an additional. But I got to tell you, if you see the way they sing and dance, it's unbelievable. I'm serious. I mean, I'm just sitting in the front row crying, and it's because the message they have, it's not just that they're like the coasters, although they are. I mean, you're seeing 10 guys up here, and if one goes like this, they all go like that. If one goes like that, and they're all exactly together. I don't know if they practice out in the jungle or what, but they have a sense of rhythm that we don't have. I mean, they're singing, they're praising God, and it's incredible. That's all I can say. Let's show the pictures, then I'll give you a chance to. There's only a few minutes of pictures, but then if you have any questions, I'll try to answer them at the end.
Go to the back.